much pressure.
Hello.
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 Hello. Hello.
An hour of like radio voice.
Yeah, coming to you live from Australia.
You got your mic closer to your mouth than usual, I think.
Oh, do I? Am I coming
No,
in
it's
too
good.
hot?
No,
Okay.
the sound is perfect. I'm just first time we chatted, I didn't even know what mic you had because I couldn't see it.
Yeah, my setup gets moved around a lot.
As we've discovered in other episodes.
Yeah.
All right, so we're in the crafting, the tweet to invite everyone.
Yeah, everyone who
Phase.
joins us live gets to experience the magic of us crafting the tweet, sharing it from my account.
We have
It's,
five subscribers on YouTube channel.
Oh, damn. That's
Damn.
awesome. Oh, yeah, we really need to like fix all of the branding and all of the other things on...
And the website and the show
Oh, yeah, we
notes.
need to make the website. Simon, you need to help me with the website because
Yes.
you're the Tailwind guy. Make it look nice because
Yeah, I'm
I
happy to do that.
am no good at that.
You do all the API
All the
Notion
wiring up
stuff.
the data sidey. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, in that case, we could probably
Do
get
all
it.
the
pretty
KFC storage. Not KFC. KV storage.
KV storage and all of the Cloudflare
Cloudflare
stuff.
workers.
Actually, I think I did do that, didn't I? I put just like on our last episode, talking all about the Edge. I did exactly that for our navbar website, which isn't live yet, but will be soon. But yeah, it's very over the top engineered. It's got like a Cloudflare Edge CDN node cache thing with KV storage running in front of the Notion API because the Notion API is too slow. So it's very cool. Ooh, Simon. Whoa. Oh my god. As Simon tells his backstory, you'll notice that his head will just get bigger and bigger and bigger on the screen
That's
until
what happens
I'm gone.
when you talk about yourself, just inflates.
That's right.
Maybe we'll start like this.
will-
We don't need John. I'll mute him as well.
All right, Simon, do you have a tweet live?
Yeah.
Oh, sick as.
Do you want the Slack? Do you want the URL for the thing? The stream. If you need it, that's it. I just select it to you. I'm gonna tweet mine, and then we can wait to see if one person joined. Cody.
Cool. Sounds good. Hey, we do have one person who's already joined, unless it's one of us.
That's
probably
me.
one of us.
Why not?
Hi, Simon, and other Simon.
Oh yeah, I could comment from my own. You guys.
We still have to keep it nice and clean because if anyone else joins from this point, they'll still see all this stuff we're saying at the start.
Yeah.
So none of your potty mouth, Simon. Clean it up.
See that?
Nice.
And what
I
a
can
nice
see that.
guy.
Yeah. What a
What
great
a
guy.
nice
He's
guy.
so supportive.
Yeah. Of himself. Okay, I'm gonna hide the live stream because it creeps me. Like it's like delayed reality, which is not good.
Mm.
I need that window, whatever that is, the surprise. I need my notes.
Surprise window.
Uh-huh. I need to remember to breathe and drink water. See, I can already hear that. Are we doing that traditional water intake?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we've got to do our synchronized drinking. You ready, Simon? Stay hydrated. There you go. I have too much expensive gear sitting in front of me for you to make me laugh while I'm drinking water.
It's dangerous because I'm
Cheers.
drinking sparkling soda.
Ooh, the
soda
spicy
stream
water.
The spicy water, that's how we call it, yeah. Which means like it sneakily puts gas into you, and then when you talk live, you might have a little incidents happening. That's why we have editing and ripple delete.
That's right, yeah. Not for the live one, though. People
Yeah,
will
we
see
live,
it.
yeah. Oh, well, you get live burps. Can you get banned from YouTube for burping? If it's an accident, like an honest accident, not just like
Yeah, I mean,
going,
maybe if you were just gross and like that was the whole stream was just you belching for hours, that might not be
for kids.
definitely not. Well, no, that sounds more like for kids actually.
Yeah, by kids.
Yeah. Awesome.
I think I'm just gonna record myself here. Bang! It's red. Do you have any backup strategy?
Yeah, already going. Oh, actually, funny story from last week before we jump into the episode. I left my recording going last week and then went and got lunch and was gone for like an hour. And I came back and just realized that I had recorded like so much like ridiculous like 4K content. Yeah. So that ScreenFlow document is huge.
Unrelated, but I think Snoop Dogg once live streamed for an entire night without knowing, and you can see him in the morning like, "Am I streaming? What the hell?"
That's amazing.
And he had like so many comments and stuff. Good stuff.
Awesome.
I don't know. I always forget how podcasts work. We
talk and we tell a story, and people listen. Hopefully they listen, and hopefully they enjoy it. And then we do it again next week. Every week for the rest of our lives. Yeah, absolutely.
What a commitment.
Oh no, I had a perfectly crafted tweet and I deleted it from my.
It was in Firefox. Right. There's at least one more person watching, unless it's you.
Woo! Yeah, it might be me.
It's good. We support each other.
Yeah.
I have notes, but I don't need notes to talk about. We'll figure it out. Maybe just
you can remember.
Oh wow,
some things about yourself, right?
Yes. Sometimes I can. if I think deep down. All right, I think I'm ready. All right. I am ready. Should I do the whole the whole interview with the French accent?
Well, we'll learn all about it soon. See, when we don't understand.
You don't even know that stuff.
Reference yet? Not
Spoiler.
Yet. We'll know it very soon though. I've done one slight professional upgrade for our YouTube channel. For anyone who's joined us live, I have updated the logo so it looks slightly more professional. But we'll make it much more professional. In fact, maybe we should set that as our goal for this week. We will make the YouTube professional. We'll make a proper website so that you can see all of the show notes and listen to it directly from our website, our Navbar website. Did we buy a domain?
No.
Did we do that? I think we did. Oh, didn't we?
Maybe. And we did
I may have just clicked
Twitter account, even if we don't tweet from there, because when I mentioned, I put the hashtag Navbar, which is like, it's nothing. If we could just like mention the account, and then in the account there's link to, it's just nice. It's like a little home on Twitter. Just squatting a domain, squatting
and it's handle. Nice just like sharing it, like sharing, things like we're going live from there and then sharing it from our other accounts.
Yes.
I feel like it looks, It looks nice.
Yeah. We agree.
We got this. All right. Thanks everyone for joining us live. We are about to actually do the real intro.
Are we?
You ready, Simon? One more sip of water? Synchronized sips.
Listen to the... Oh.
Ooh, the bar is opening early this time.
It did sound a lot like...
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe you could just do it live with your bottle from now on.
I need to tap it on the table.
And then I'll go, hey! Woo! All right. Okay. People watching, are you ready? Zuhir, Shahud, are you ready to go?
Yes, sir.
I am ready to go.
We are ready.
Right. Welcome to the Navbar, a podcast where we help you navigate the web and raise the bar of your content creation. My name is John Myers. I'm a developer advocate from Superbase.
And I'm Simon Vrashley-Otis, a designer, developer, content creator, and all sorts of things from Sydney, Australia.
In this episode, we're going to learn all about Simon. We're going to learn about him growing up in Switzerland, his time kind of dancing between software engineering and teaching, and what finally led him to combine those two into developer advocacy. So people might not know this, but Simon and I have only recently met, very recently. I guess we haven't even actually met in real life. But we were just both fans of each other's content, and I think both excited to see someone else doing cool DevRel stuff from Australia. So we chatted occasionally on Twitter, but our first Zoom conversation, or our first video chat, was really about starting this podcast. So I am very excited to learn all about Simon alongside the listeners.
Sounds good. So some context, I need you to tell me where I should start, and also because it's an open discussion. If you want to drill down on something specific, I say just interrupt me and just derail me into something you want to know about me.
Sounds good. I think it's going to take a lot of convincing as to why you moved from beautiful snowy mountains of Switzerland to Australia. So how about we rewind all the way to the beginning and let's hear all about your origin story.
Sounds great. So like you just said, it all started for me in Switzerland. I was born in 1981, which makes me, I think, on the edge of the boomer / Gen Z. I don't even know what generations are, but I'm like almost a millennial, maybe not. It's complicated. If you're watching live, you're going to have, I'm trying to not deteriorate the audio experience, but for those who are live, I will now reveal a fancy little slide which shows you on the map, if you didn't know, where Switzerland is. So it's like right in the middle of Europe. And then more specifically, I grew up on the shores of Lake Geneva. So if you're watching live, you can see this. There's a big lake with Geneva being the town that most people know. And I grew up at the other end of the lake in a town called Vevey or Montreux. Fun fact about Vevey, it's the headquarters of Nestle. So if you look at any Nestle product, chocolate bar or milk or whatever, behind you will see Vevey because that's where the headquarters are. But the region is really cool because if you look on this image on the left, on the west, it's kind of flat. And then if you turn around, it's the exact start of the Alps. So this is really where the flat Europe meets the Alps. It's the start of the big Alps chain. So I grew up in this region where, as you can imagine, there's a lot of skiing opportunities and mountaineering, mountain bike, which is very cool. This is the French part because the other side of the lake is Evian, and there's the border literally in the middle of the lake. My wife once swam across, so you can actually go between the countries fairly openly, but you still might need a passport every now and then. But borders in Europe are quite open, especially when you're Swiss.
Are there people floating on boats in the middle of the lake, just ready to check your passport as you reach the halfway point?
No, it's pretty chill. There is the only way to cross technically. Actually, you can cross by boat, but there is a little chalet, little hut between the two countries, and most of the time someone just waves you a little sign and you can go. And it's the classic. If you go from Switzerland to France, there's absolutely no problem. But coming back, they might check are you. Or the opposite, sorry, are you buying stuff and trying to sell them in the other country? But for the most part, it's very open borders, and you might not even notice that you crossed the border. So this is me. I'm going to go back to our face-to-face discussion stream. I have a complicated last name, and I literally started this podcast so I can educate people on how to pronounce it, Vrashli Otis. This is a Greek last name. My dad is Greek. He grew up in an island called Corfu Island, which if you have traveled to Greek islands, you may have visited. It's a very, very popular tourist destination. I myself have been going to Corfu summer after summer growing up. My dad still has a house where he grew up, and it's pretty awesome. I've lost my Greek now because I haven't gone for 10 plus years. But being a blonde kid in an island that has a lot of Swedish travelers, I found quite funny when I would go to a restaurant as a young adult with my friends, and everyone assumes that I'm Swedish because there's a lot of Swedish people, and they would sometimes make little comments like, "Oh, bring the tourist price menu," and I would just start speaking in fluent Greek, and they'd be like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry."
So were you bilingual at home? Did you speak both French and Greek?
So my dad spoke Greek to me when I was a little child, but I think I would always reply in French. So he kind of gave up on the idea. I'm not bilingual, but after going, if I would go for like a whole month or so, it just comes back really quickly. For example, in 2004, I was a volunteer for the Athens Olympics, and I spent 6 weeks in Greece. And by the end of it, I was like completely fluent, but it just comes and goes.
Right.
And I wish my dad spoke Greek to me longer. And now I'm doing the same mistake with my son where I speak French to him and we live in Sydney. So he talks back in English and I just kind of gave up and go in English. But he goes to bilingual school, so that should help.
Nice. So far you are not convincing me as to why you moved from beautiful, not just beautiful snowy mountains of Switzerland, but now spending like, your holidays over in Greek islands. You're really not convincing me so far. So let's see how you do with the rest of the episode.
Yeah, I gotta say that Switzerland is a good lifestyle. I'm very blessed to be able to call both Switzerland and Australia my homes. It's a little bit inconvenient in terms of distance, but the quality of life, I think some studies showed, it might have changed, but 3 or 4 years ago, the two best countries where a child could be born to be the most like successful and accomplished and happy and balanced and stuff was Australia and Switzerland. And I was like, my kids have exactly these two passports. It's a pretty good head start. So that's where I grew up. But I grew up not really being a tech nerd at all. I was much more an outdoor sporty person. So I've done a lot of snowboarding, as you can imagine, with all the mountains, but also skateboarding and basketball. And so I grew up doing all these sports, and I loved sports so much. And at some point when you're a child and you grow up, teachers and the education system tells you have to choose what you want to do when you grow up, really. And I really did not know what I wanted to do, but I liked sports. So I thought, hey, you can study sports science at university, and then you can become a sports teacher or a sports manager or sports research where you put little oxygen mask on people on the bike or treadmill, and you analyze how the body reacts, and you do like literally sports science. So I was like, this sounds really interesting. And so I did a master's degree at University of Lausanne in Switzerland in sports science, still not really knowing what I wanted to do with it, but I ended up being a sports teacher at schools.
Okay, so this was still over in Switzerland. So once again, you're still not convincing me. But why do you live here in Australia now?
So that's the question I get a lot. Like, how did you end up here? And so for the last year of my master's degree, which was in Switzerland, I did a 1-year exchange program that you can do at uni, where someone from another university comes, takes your spot, and you kind of swap in terms of like academic slots. And so I was initially applying for University of British Columbia in Vancouver because of the whole snowboarding and Whistler. And I was like, oh my God, I love this. None of the surfing and sunshine and beaches were in my head back then. And I applied and I almost got the position, and I was so excited, and I kind of blocked out the next year of my life to go there. And then the uni calls me with a really dreaded dark tone, and I'm like, Simon, we're so sorry. The person you're swapping with has bailed out, and so there's no spot for you. And I was like, damn, I literally planned everything, and I Googled everything, and I was like, I'm going to live in this suburb of Vancouver. And before, I didn't even know, like I didn't plan to enroll for next lectures because I thought I'm going there. And then the person from the exchange program hits me with, but there's a spot in Sydney, UTS, University of Technology in Sydney, if you're interested. And I was like, first I was like, oh, I don't know, I really wanted to go there. And then I did some Googling about Sydney. And when you research Sydney, you see these photos of Bondi Beach and incredible nature, and the weather and everything is like absolutely mind-blowing. And I kind of warmed up to the idea. I was like, yeah, that sounds like I could do something like this. So it wasn't...
Right, so it was a mistake, and then you've now just fully bunkered down with a family and everything, and now you're just here permanently anyway. But yes. So before that point, had you... I guess you had spent some time at beautiful beaches in Greece, right? So it was...
Yes.
So had you done any surfing up to that point, or was this just... a new hobby that you were looking at getting into?
All right. So while doing I had never surfed before, and I was 25 years old when I did that exchange. And from my research, I immediately gathered that Sydney is one of the best places in the whole world to surf. Like, especially in terms of city, there's not many big cities in the world that have literally 50, 60 plus really world-class surf beaches. And I was like, I don't know if I like it, but I will definitely from the start try to get into surfing because it seems like a nice opportunity. Little did I know that Europe and other places have also really good surf, but I just thought you can only surf in Hawaii and Australia, and that's the places where
the little islands.
Yeah,
the little islands on the other side of the world.
And so I from the start, even if the uni was in the city, I kind of based myself. I was like, there's a beach called Manly Beach in Sydney, which is the northern beaches part of Sydney, which is where I still live now, by the way. And I was like, I'm going to base myself in Manly because they have this ferry that goes into the city in half an hour or even 15 minutes with the fast one. And I was like, instead of living just the exchange program life where you just go out and party and stuff, I want to do this, but I also want to embrace the whole like surf lifestyle. And yeah, from day one, I got there and took some lessons and bought a board and learned to surf. And it has never left me. And to answer one of your questions, it's as simple as this. Surfing, it does this to many people. Once you try it and you enter this lifestyle, there's no going back. It's free, so you buy your board and then you don't need anything. And then you have this connection with the ocean and the elements, and you get up early. And once you take a bite of this lifestyle, the idea of living away from the ocean becomes like really painful. And Switzerland, as amazing as it is, it's locked by mountains everywhere and other countries. And if you want to surf, the closest place would be Italy. And it's like there's waves maybe 10 times in the year when there's a big storm. If you want good surf, you have to do like book a flight and go somewhere to Spain or France or Portugal, which is awesome. But yeah, just the whole idea of living life without being able to surf before work is really hard. Does that help convincing you a little bit?
A little bit, yeah. How long has it been since you've been back to Switzerland? Do you go back there regularly and take the family to go snowboarding?
So since the kids were born, my son was born in Switzerland, and we moved back to Australia in 2013 when he was just about 1 year old. And my daughter was born in Australia. And then we tried every 2 years to either go back or have my parents come and visit, so they get some like interaction time. We went twice, I think, back to Switzerland since we did the big move about 10 years ago. The last time, very lucky, was just before the whole COVID shut down the entire world. So we went for Christmas 2019. Spent the whole month of January, so like 6 weeks, because my wife is a teacher still, and it's the school holiday in Australia is like Christmas and January. So we took that whole portion and went there, and we did Christmas, white Christmas with the snow falling out the window, and then skiing and all this stuff with the family. And then we came back, and about a month later, everything shut down. And I think now we could go back, but until recently, that was completely out of the question to imagine traveling back to Europe with the whole family.
Okay, cool. So jumping back to your university time, so you were studying sports science, right?
Yes.
So did you do that all the way through? Did you finish your degree?
Well, yeah. So like I was saying, I was doing sports science at University of Lausanne, and then I did this 1 year exchange. I was still a sports science, but the University of Technology where I went had some really interesting tourism and events management lectures as well. Part of the whole, as a sports science student, I could also access these. And that's when you branch off into more like sport events and like doing sports camps and like organizing like skateboard contests or whatever sports management. And so I thought all I studied was really how to become a teacher in Switzerland. And I thought I was really interested in the whole sports and travel industry as well. So I kind of took lectures there. And so that's when I was 25, 2006. And this is also where I met my wife at uni. As you do, the classic thing, I spent a whole year in Sydney at uni, and I met this girl maybe 4 weeks before I had to go back. And this is when we like fell in love and like, oh my God, I want to stay. And I had to go back. And then long story short, she kind of ended up coming to study in Switzerland, do the same thing that I did. She did an exchange from Sydney to Lausanne the year after, so we kind of reconnected that way. And between then, so that's 15 years ago, almost 16 years ago, between then and now, we kind of lived between both countries. But now we've been in Sydney for about 10 years.
Okay, so did you try the whole long distance thing initially and stay together, or did you just stay friends and then eventually she decided she wanted to come hang out in Switzerland?
Basically, from the time I left, which is like, it sounds silly, but now, I mean, it turned out okay. But when I left, we were almost both convinced that she was going to try and apply for an exchange program, and she kind of did straight away. So we did the 6-month long distance thing where you... And it's to put some context, it's 1 year before Facebook was a thing. So that was like MySpace, MySpace DMs, and just even like writing emails and stuff. Like it's crazy to think now. Like right now, everyone has WhatsApp or Messenger or whatever, FaceTime. But
and
back
video
then,
things, yeah. You wouldn't have FaceTime. You wouldn't have Zoom. You wouldn't.
Skype was
just
a
be
thing,
able to
but
be like.
Yeah, it was very, you didn't just tell your girlfriend, hey, we should Skype. And that was like a meeting work thing. Yeah, it's funny to think back about that. But yeah, we did 6 months of long distance relationship, and it turned out to work out because we're now happily married with 2 kids, 1 cat, 2 adult dogs, and 6 puppy dogs. The whole
nice,
thing.
Okay. So you've gone from sports teacher, but obviously you're not a sports teacher anymore.
Yeah.
So how did you transition from being a sports teacher into web development and developer advocacy, I guess?
Yeah, you're very good at guessing. Yeah, it's good questions because I don't realize, like, when I tell these things, like, hang on, it doesn't explain much of what happened next. So, like I mentioned, I studied sports, but also tourism when I was in Australia. And also when I was in Australia, I discovered this huge travel segment that doesn't really exist in Switzerland. Oh, it does exist, but it wasn't really properly maximized and used. So, and what I mean is the backpackers market. So I don't know if you had some backpackers years where you have a backpack and you just travel from hostel to hostel on a budget and maybe visit the whole Europe or even just Australia. Have you done any of that?
My brother did, so I'm familiar with the concept, but my big adventurous thing, as we talked about in the last episode, was moving from Canberra, Australia to Melbourne, Australia. So
yeah,
just moving to a new city and kind of and living there permanently. I've traveled like to a particular location overseas for like a few weeks, but yeah, haven't done the backpacking through a whole segment of Europe or anything like that.
Yeah. Okay, so for me, that was like brand new, and I did the whole classic, when you visit Australia as a non-Australian, most people do the Sydney to Cairns East Coast trip, where you book like a Greyhound bus ticket, which is like hop on, hop off. So it's like a one-way ticket, but you can jump off at any time and then continue the journey. And the ticket is valid for like 30 days or 60 or whatever you booked. And so I discovered all this low-cost accommodation and this, like, you would just check in a hostel and you'd see people from around the world just like you, and they would all do this crazy stuff like skydiving, surfing lessons, and some had like a 4-day canoeing in the Everglades in Noosa. Like, there's so many things, and you're like, wow, like, I've never seen anything like this in Switzerland. And I know because the whole concept of youth hostels and budget accommodation kind of started in Germany and Switzerland, and it's actually, there's so many of them. But it's just a place where you go and you're a member of like this youth hostel association and you have a discount. And I was like, I've stayed in a few of these and there was never any like little booth where you can book some, like, what's your next destination or like some adventure. And by discovering this, and also I had studied the whole like sports, like travel and tourism. And I was like, there's so much that we could do in Switzerland. And I kind of became a little bit obsessed with this idea that because I had studied sports and management and tourism, that back in Switzerland, I could create or like just help develop something like this because there was so much potential. And I'll just go back to sharing something. If you're listening to the audio, you're not really missing out on anything. But one of these things I'm trying to describe is an agency in Australia, like a chain of agencies called Peter Pan's. And it's basically a travel agency that specifies for backpacking tourism. So it has a list of hostels, but also a list of activities, like the stuff that appeals young people, like skydiving, scuba diving, snorkeling, like pub crawl, anything you can think of young people having a blast doing. And basically it takes, it just takes different segments. So you have accommodation, and then you have adventure tours, and then you have the transport, like I said, the Greyhound bus. There's lots of different of these services that help you travel, and then car rental and anything you can think of helping someone craft a really cool budget adventure, not just stay somewhere, but do the whole planning. And I was like, damn, these Australians come to Switzerland and they will land in Interlaken, which is like the backpackers central. That's where all the skydiving and adventure happens. Interlaken you can tell some people took the idea of Australia and just applied it. And it's like everyone goes there and stays there. But I was like, there's so many amazing destinations in Switzerland no one will ever visit because there's none of these network of like people just promoting each other and creating this this momentum. And I became obsessed with this. And I was that was my last year at uni. So when you study at university, you have to do a thesis at the end. Like it's like the big paper to kind of conclude all your studies, big research. And I was like, I want to do my thesis because I studied sports and tourism into literally the potential of all these adventure/sports activities and tourism in Switzerland. So I kind of did a research and compared the whole market in Switzerland to what was in Australia. And then I wrote this research. So it's all on paper at this point. But I was like, I took the map of Switzerland that I know really well. And I was like, you could have a 3-day, 5-day, 7-day adventure. And I was like, imagining you could pay for a ticket for trains. There are really good trains in Switzerland, and then stay there. And then first day you do a ski lesson, and second day you go there and your wine tasting tour and all this cool stuff. And I was getting really, really excited. And I actually partnered with the Institute of Tourism at Uni of Lausanne to do this. And I wrote my whole thesis, and it got published, and it went to Tourism Switzerland, and people were like, this is really, really good. Somebody needs to do something. And I was like, okay, I've done all that research. I've proved that it's a really good business. Am I going to let someone else just take this and just build it, or should I try and build it? And I decided that I wanted to try to start this business. My wife actually studied, she came from the business management side, and we were having this shared tourism classes at uni, but she had this really strong business where you learn to do a business plan and market research and SWOT analysis and all this thing you need to do to establish the business is viable. And I thought, together we can probably pull it off and try to build something. So I'm rambling a bit, but essentially I was like, we're going to build this travel business together. And there's one problem with that, is typically these agencies and these concepts live as the form of a website. And the core element of this business operation is a web platform. And I knew how to post stuff on MySpace and like, you know how everyone learns to do some web design with MySpace, where you tweak the CSS and just add some colors and stuff. I knew this, but I knew nothing about web development beyond that because I didn't study any of that. And so, as I tend to do, I started learning web development. So that's why.
Awesome. So what year was this around about? Just to.
This is right after I finished my thesis, which was 2007. So yeah, about 15 years ago from now.
Okay.
I like to put in perspective, that's the first year of Facebook. Like almost no one used it, and if you remember the MySpace and Facebook era, that was just then. So social media was just starting to kick off, but it wasn't like now where you can just maybe create a TikTok account where you just share some really cool views from Switzerland and just build momentum. And so I was teaching full time in Switzerland in a school. And then in evenings, I was like, okay, what do I need to learn? Enter the whole rabbit hole. So I started with HTML and CSS, which I'm kind of proud of. Maybe if React and all these things existed, I think React came in 2013, maybe I would have jumped straight in there.
Yeah, so to put this in perspective, there was no React, there was no Angular, there was no Vue, there was no Svelte. There were like other kind of competitive websites didn't exist. Like I imagine Airbnb would do a lot of this now, where if you find like accommodation, they might offer you like different experiences and things that you could do in that area. But yeah, nothing really existed like that. And so beyond just like going and sitting down with a travel agent in person once you're in that country, or maybe someone who is familiar with that country, there wasn't really a way to piece all of this together.
Right. That's correct. And the thing that existed already and still exists and still a brilliant way to build a business was PHP. I started with HTML, CSS, and quickly realized it's going to be a long journey. When I realized I can display stuff, but I can't have any dynamic stuff or have some content and then just loop through it and a list of accommodation and stuff. And I discovered a platform called Drupal. I don't know if you heard of Drupal. It is a PHP CMS, and it kind of is nerdy in a sense that it's probably much better now. It was Drupal 6, like the brand new version was Drupal 6, and it was built by backend developers. Like the UI is very confusing and kind of clunky, but it's so powerful. Basically, it lets you do what the ideal CMS does, which create content models and then create fields and then decide I want a text and then I want a list of things and I want an image and a video. So you customize exactly the fields you need and then you can build content. And then that blew my mind because I just knew a bit of CSS and HTML to just display simple things, but I had no idea how to make like a layout with like 3 columns and then 2 and then like some advanced CSS layout. But Drupal had this module called views. And basically views let you pull out any of the content models you had and then visually assemble them on the WYSIWYG page, kind of like a site builder. So you could say, I want 3 columns with the top destination and then the next 2 and then 5 blog posts. And you could build the whole content architecture visually in a way. The code that it generated was questionable, but it empowered me, someone who's got just enough CSS, HTML, and creative skills to build something pretty cool.
So was this when was WordPress kind of focused around just blogging platforms at that point? Like what was because obviously WordPress is also built on PHP. At that point, what was the differentiating factor between Drupal or WordPress?
That's a great question because I actually looked at WordPress as well. And back then, like you said, it was very much of if you need a blog and you need like a title and a body and a cover image, WordPress is amazing and you can have it self-hosted or like the hosted version. And what drove me towards Drupal, even if WordPress is also capable of doing this, is out of the box without adding advanced custom fields or any specific modules. At the core, the first thing you do is define, I think it's called entities but it's just content models, like a schema basically. So I was like, I need accommodations, I need transport, I need activities, and then I need tours that kind of collect these together and chain them. And I was like, I don't know if I can do this with WordPress, but Drupal made it really, not easy, but it gave me the power to structure almost anything I wanted.
Yeah, nice. Did you have any friends or anyone you could reach out to if you got stuck, or were you literally just like piecing together different tutorials or different... Was Stack Overflow even a thing or that helpful at that point?
I knew nobody of my friends who were web developers, and I was literally piecing it together by doing some research. I don't think YouTube was that big. Like now, if you go learn Drupal on YouTube, you'll have like incredible content for sure. It was literally on the Drupal site because it's a huge community. Drupal is open source. So there was like forums and stuff. And I was like, how do you change the layout in views, blah, blah, blah. And there was lots of, sometimes you had to modify the source code. So people would share the diff, the snippets with the plus and minus. And I was like trying to copy the whole thing and paste it. And then the plus and minus was like invalid characters. And I just, that was a grind, man. I was trying to figure out my way into there. But, and again, if you are in the live stream, you will testify of this. I ended up building something that I'm quite proud. It actually looked pretty decent. So we created that company called Swiss Hopper because it has this hop on, hop off concept where you hop around Switzerland. I hand designed the little cow logo here with the GIMP. GIMP is like, or Inkscape, sorry. GIMP is like Photoshop, and Inkscape is like the open source version of Illustrator. And I built this website that even now I look at it, it's a small image, but it was actually pretty badass, like for 2007 or 8. And it was pulling content from the database. There was like the featured activities, stores. That little map on the bottom right, I remember taking a week to do it. It's like this I think it's called hot map, where you can draw shapes. And then when you hover over a portion, it kind of adds an overlay. So each region of Switzerland was a link to the actual region, like if you went to the menu. But if you hovered over, you could see all the little things. And so I was like, man, I've built something actually really cool. I designed all the little badges and stuff. And
even in terms of like, you can't see this if you're just listening to the audio stream, but like there's some kind of like modern ideas of UI development here as well. Like you've got like the 3 main articles that someone might go and look at, or sorry, the tours. Like you've got this kind of pillar thing. You've got overlays over images showing some text describing what the image is. You've got little like badges above things like the most popular and special deals and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's very like, you know, obviously you look at it and you're like, this isn't a website that is live on the internet right now, or like a completely modern website, but there are modern aspects to it, which is very impressive given that you're kind of like cobbling together all of these things.
Totally. So I grabbed one of the Drupal core, I forgot the name of the theme, but they have these themes that are like starter theme where you have like grid layouts and stuff. And between this and the content schema that I built and then the creative stuff, that like I came up with something really good. And I was like, I really, really enjoy this. And at this point, I had the website, but it was all display only. And my wife and I started traveling around hostels and stuff. And we literally like called people and say, hey, we're building this thing that should help you have more people going through your hostel, because we connect it with other hostels, and we kind of pitch the whole how they do it in Australia. And my wife being Australian, and like it kind of that great dynamic. And we populated the site with at the start, we were literally saying, just as a proof of concept, we'll try. Just you have nothing to lose. Let us create a little entity in the site. And then if people come, we can start discussing about a commission or something. And it gave us the opportunity to travel a lot around Switzerland, which you can imagine my wife being Australian, getting to tour across Switzerland and go in hostels and skiing and stuff was actually really cool. And hostels were the thing, but the best part was like activities like paragliding and stuff. And we got to do a bunch of free activities. Just in exchange, we get some photos and we do the listing, and made some friends along the way. So again, I'll stop sharing my screen, so don't worry too much if you're listening to the podcast, but this is the Vimeo channel we had. And you can see the top image. It's me flying tandem paragliding with the instructor, and he became a really good friend. And at the bottom, it's the same instructor with my wife. So we got treated to all these cool activities without paying for any of these, because of the whole concept of building a network. And it was going great up to this point, until I realized that everything was display only. And we actually had a few customers, but the way we could do the bookings was someone would call us or email us and say, oh, I love this. I want to do 1 flight paragliding and stay 2 nights in this hostel. And we were like, okay, cool. I'll get back to you. And then I would call Richie, he's called the instructor. He became a good friend. I would say, hey, Richie, can you do the 4 people paragliding flight in 2 weeks? And he was like, yep. And then I would call the hostel and say, can we book 2 beds? And they were like, yep. And then I quickly realized, like, this is all manual, because I have the skills to display anything on the website, but then booking and checking for availabilities and all that is completely different ballgame, if that makes sense.
Yeah, there's a lot of overhead to you're essentially then running your own travel agency on top of being a web developer and like building out this business. Yeah. So
I had gotten to a really cool place, and I wish now. So fast forward, I let this didn't turn out to work out that great, and I let the domain expire and all this stuff. So the site doesn't even exist. But back then I was like, we could have continued doing like this and doing manual booking until we figure it out. But what I opted to do is, because I looked up, we need like a booking system. Like booking system is immediately a huge jump, especially for a visual learner like me. I can figure out CSS by changing colors and padding, and I can figure out HTML, and then I can figure out how to use Drupal to lay stuff out. But a booking engine, I was like, that's computer science to me. Like it's like way beyond. Again, that now there's Shopify, there's all these things, but back then I was like, I don't really know what to use. I looked at Magento and a few things, and then I got lulled into this software called Touristway. It's like it was a booking software that did accommodation, adventures, and tours and package deals. And I was like, holy crap, this is exactly what I'm looking for. I think the license was like $1,000 though. It was a paid service software. And it was built in Perl. I don't know if you know the Perl language, but it's like, it's not very, if you come from CSS and HTML, it's not really that beginner friendly.
And PHP as well. Like PHP is very nice and like quite intuitive.
Yeah.
Kind of like JavaScripty almost. Perl not so much.
Yeah. PHP, like if you know HTML and you understand loops and stuff, or even like and have a variable like a function with an argument, I was like, oh, I get this incrementally, but Perl is like completely different. And so we bought this license. So we just spent $1,000. We're like, crap, like it's a commitment. Like we were both working, so we had an income, but that was like, this side project now has become very real. Like we've invested money and so much time, so we have to see it through. And Touristway had a way to do marketing pages, like just kind of the equivalent that I did with Drupal. But I was like, I've worked so hard to have this Drupal content. What I want is to integrate Touristway inside Drupal. And like, it's a Perl booking engine with a PHP CMS. I was like, I'm not even going to try. So I hired someone and paid another couple of $1,000s to do the integration. At this point, we're going all in. We're going to build this, and then this is going to take off. Yeah, you get the momentum after a year of building this thing. And in retrospect, I was terrible at explaining the requirements. I said, we have this Drupal site. We need that when someone does a booking on Touristway, it updates the database in Drupal, and the person also was terrible. The person that hired, the freelancer, was terrible at extracting the information they needed out of me. You know how sometimes you work with a contractor and you say, I need this. And they're going to say, okay, but what have you thought about this and that? And ask good questions. And you're like, oh, that's a great point. Let me get back to you. So that person, I did a list of requirements and forgot a bunch of stuff. Like if you create a discount in Drupal, does it recognize it? The answer is out of scope. You didn't ask for this. So the person built exactly the list of requirements I asked, nothing more, nothing less. And turns out to not work at all, because every time we had like, we wanted to create a discount or an extra or just add like a weekend special, like there was no way to. He basically created the existing entities from Drupal into Touristway and kind of I don't even know how it worked, but because I didn't know web dev back then, but I think there was like some sort of web hook or whatever that when a booking was made, it was just going in with the Drupal API and updating like a value. But it was completely rigid, and which meant we couldn't expand it at all. So I am now $3,000 spent and really could not use this at all. And we went back to doing the manual thing. And that's when with my wife, we were like, like it's a great idea and I'm sure it's going to work, but we maybe should like chill out on like trying to like making a business right now. Maybe let's take our time and continue learning web dev. And so I did what I do. I went back to learning web development, and I thought, I'm going to do it myself. I'm not going to learn Perl. Like I was attached to this Touristway thing because of the money. But in the back of my head, I was like, if I could start over, I would, because Touristway was very rigid and no customer support. It's not a coincidence that it doesn't exist anymore. Like the domain name doesn't exist. So they did not make it through either. But what you mentioned before, WordPress, I realized that WordPress, even Drupal had that thing called Drupal Commerce, which, by the way, I went to a conference to learn about Drupal Commerce, and like I was all in. I was like, I'm going to do this thing. But somehow WordPress that's a couple of years later. I'm not sure exactly when, but 2009, 10 maybe. WordPress taking off, like becoming the de facto CMS, like to do pretty much anything with custom fields and plugins. And WooCommerce, which is an e-commerce platform, got integrated to WordPress. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to bite the bullet and try to port all my stuff over from Drupal to WordPress, which I did.
Was that actually a really big, like, did all of that get stored in like a MySQL database in the background as well? Like,
Yeah.
would be the case with WordPress? Like, was it a similar stack? And they obviously both use PHP. So were there at least some convenient bridges between moving a Drupal site to a WordPress site?
In retrospect, for sure, like there would be ways to migrate database and change some table fields or whatever. But I tried to do all this and I did research. And again, database was like, I'm the visual person who builds with the visual tools. And then I had managed to set up PHP MyAdmin and have a database, but I had no idea what it was doing whatsoever. So I ended up creating the fields and finding a way to export some data and manually, there was a lot of manual work, but I'm sure there was better ways to do it. But I ended up porting all the accommodation and tours and stuff to WordPress and starting using WooCommerce for bookings. So we were one step closer until I realized the next hurdle, because there's always a hurdle. So we were able to book accommodations, but everyone, every hostel is paragliding is not a big deal, but every hostel for accommodation, they were like, dude, people call and they book, and then people come in and they book, and we have our own booking engine, so we can't go on your site and maintain the accommodation availability in real time and every time. So you need to use our engine. So what we want to do is not do anything. We want to allow you to do bookings, and we can set up commissions and stuff. But we do not want to have to train our staff to, remember to go in Swiss Hopper and make sure you book the bed. Otherwise, that we have double bookings.
So essentially build an integration tool for every single hostel and every single event that was on there. Every single person would want you to bridge across to their system and update in real time. So
and this is where what everyone when we did our trip around Switzerland, everyone said the same thing that I didn't really hear properly, but they were like, you're going to reach the problems of vacancy and integrations, because everyone in Switzerland uses this Swiss tourism booking thing. And you need to be an affiliate, like you need to be a registered accommodation place to have access. And this is kind of like where the dream came to a hard stop, because I reached out to Tourism Switzerland and say, hey, we're doing this network of hostels and activities and stuff, and I'd love to be able to be registered as not an accommodation, but like a provider of accommodation, and be able to update to be like maybe connected to all these and be able to update them. And I think there's something, it's changed now, but there's something strange about Switzerland where they always assume that low budget tourism wasn't worth it, because Switzerland is a very high end luxury market where this is where all of the money is made. And maintaining like a low cost, even if there's a thing about backpacking tourism, which is word of mouth and scale. And you can actually, Australia proved that it can be very profitable, because backpackers will spend all this money doing adventures and like skydiving and stuff that maybe the typical tourist will buy like a little stuffed animal and an ice cream and go to the next town. But there was a very low interest in helping the backpacking tourism. And also, I think they kind of saw it as a threat, because they're like, no, we're the agency that books people. We don't want to have people having access to that and do our job and take their commission. So I kind of hit a dead end where we were like, okay, we have all of this and we can do it manually, but it's going to become a nightmare. And we literally are not allowed to use the software. I'm pretty sure nowadays there would be better ways, because they might have changed to an independent booking system, or they might even use something like Shopify or WooCommerce. I have no idea. But basically back then, I was like almost, all right, this is the hurdle too much. That's going to show me that it's not going to work out. So I know this is a very long story, but this, at first I was like, what a waste of time and money and stuff. Until I realized, hey, I actually learned a very valuable skill. Like I know how to build websites, even if I cobble them together with like like visual tools and then tweak the CSS a bit. And I was like, I can actually transfer this to my job. I'm still a teacher, and there's ways that I can see now how using a little web tool would be super helpful. So, for example, we were doing a lot of sports activities and tournaments within my school. I was actually teaching in a private school in Switzerland, which sounds fancy, and private schools are very fancy, but in terms of salaries, I was actually paid less than a public school. But there was a lot more opportunities for cool sporting events. So private schools have incredible kick-ass sporting facilities. They have all the money to have tennis courts and brand new facilities. And they also have this network of private schools where the elite of the society, as they see it, meets and do inter-school tournaments. They have this really strong network. I think that's also a thing in Australia. And so we were doing all these tournaments and eventually even international tournaments with like other private schools. And the approach we had is we would be 2 or 3 teachers and we take 20 kids and we go there and we do the tournament. And at the end of day 1, we go to the hotel and we do a Word document or an Excel sheet or a PDF and we email the parents, here's the results of today's games, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, man, I can do a website with Drupal. Drupal has that sports league module. You put the team names, it generates like tables and schedules and standing tables. And then even from your phone. So I had an iPhone back then. That was 2009 or 10, like one of the first iPhones. I could coach the game. And at the end of the game, just go on the iPhone. It was like not responsive. You just pinch and zoom. And I was like, home team 6, opposite team 4. Save. And it would just update the whole standings table and all the stats and stuff. And I was like, my God, like I went from sending a PDF in the evening to anyone who's interested. Right after the game, they can see the result. And the kids would just go, because private school kid had phones, of course. They were like, oh my God, we're now second. And you could see everyone interacting. And before I knew it...
That's amazing. They seem like such different, like completely different industries, talking about like a travel system and different experiences that you can do in different countries or just in Switzerland. It seems very different to a sporting platform. But yeah, there are a lot of parallels, a lot of transferable skills across what you had done to this new system. That's awesome.
Yeah, especially because I use Drupal, so I was using the same theme, starter theme and views module to like display what I want. And then I just added this module called Sports League, and literally it said, all right, what sport is it? Enter the league name and the team name. And then do you want to generate a round robin tournament or do you want to manually enter? And I was like, I'll do it manually because the schedule is provided. But then it just did everything and you could click on the player and see the stats and all these things. And it's literally the exact same skills that I had learned. And yeah, just going from a crappy little PDF update to this website that looked great and every other school could see. And before I even knew it, a lot of teachers from other private schools were like, where did you get this? This is incredible. We want one of these as well. And I had schools that wanted a similar website, but then I have the big boss of the sports like private school association called ADISR, ADISR, it's, I think, Association of Swiss Institute of Private Schools, something. He was like, how about we have a budget for you to create a website for the whole association? You become the webmaster of stuff and you create the same tournament stuff. And then we can have volleyball, tennis, basketball, soccer, whatever. And at the start of the year, so this is one thing private school sports teacher would meet at the start of a new year and everyone would have a piece of paper and it's kind of like a meeting, all hands meeting. And someone who runs the event said, all right, we're going to have 10 minutes and you just go to everyone and try to schedule the 3 games you have to do throughout the season for any sport you need. And then let's collect all the papers and someone will manually enter it and do the Microsoft document, the whole planning. You can imagine like the absolute frenzy of people coming with pen and paper and then, what day? And then they can't even reread what they wrote. And that day they were like, Simon, how do you feel about just doing a 5-minute pitch for the idea you have? and say, hey, forget the paper. Like, we're just going to have a computer and you can still discuss when you want to play, but we enter it directly on the website. And if everything goes well, by the end of today, instead of having a pile of paper of handwritten stuff that someone will definitely misread or have to call to say, is it a 6 or a 9? We're going to have the planning. And so I presented the site. I said, this is what we've done for our school. I did a demo like from my phone at the score, and the things updated on the... Like I had my phone, I had the big screen projector with the website, and I added the result, and it's not like a SPA, but I refreshed the page and the standings were updated, and literally everyone clapped. They were like, oh my God, this is so good. And I was like, okay, let's do this. And we scheduled all the sports, and everything was done. By the end of the day, all the sports, it's already on the website. The game were announced, kids could see it. And I was like, I literally disrupted the whole sports tournament industry with like a shitty Drupal cobbled together website. And that's when I saw how much potential there was. And what I like about this is I was still teaching full time, but I kind of got a few periods per week to maintain the site as a kind of... I wasn't getting paid anything, but I was getting paid in time, and kind of... Like, there was a budget which allowed to buy me time off teaching to do that, if that makes sense. And I was like, just babying this website and trying to make it my baby and better. And slowly but surely, it kind of transferred into teachers saying, hey, my cousin's running this soccer club. Like, can you do one of these? And like, before I knew, I somehow... And my tools were Drupal and WordPress. And I was like... I didn't call myself a web developer, but I was like, you can pitch me any idea and I can figure out what content models to do and how to display it. And I couldn't do like booking engines and those sort of stuff, but I could figure out plugins that do it. And I was like, I can build any website for anyone. And before I knew it, I became this freelance on the side web developer. And I had more and more of this friend of a cousin's uncle who asked for a website, and to the point where I asked my school, hey, I have this passion, and on the evenings I do website all the time. Is there any chance I can reduce my teaching duties to 50%? So I would still do the school's tournaments website, and I would still teach, but only like 2 days a week, and then try to do my thing. And they said, yep, like, look, it's not ideal. Like, we love to have teachers full time, but you're obviously passionate about this, and what you've done for the schools is amazing. So go for it. And within 1 year, like, it became so clear so quickly that I could make way more money on the part-time doing websites. And you got to remember, my wife is Australian, I'm Swiss. We're thinking we might go back. This idea of having a job you can do anywhere. I was like in my pajamas at home, but I could go to the chalet where we go skiing, or I could go to Australia and continue doing the same job, versus being a teacher and then having to quit and have to restart from scratch when you go somewhere else. Super quickly, I realized this is what I want to do. Like, I have more fun, more success, and more flexibility doing web development. And I still know next to nothing. So I was like, I want to learn it properly and try to see if I can career change. And that I was almost 30 years old by then, probably 30, 31. And this is when I realized I think I'm ready for the big jump.
Okay, so you were still in Switzerland. What year are we talking at this point?
I'm not exactly sure. What I can tell you is in 2013. So at the end, in Switzerland, the academic school finishes in May, June, like the summer, European summer is the end of the school. And I had handed my resignation letter, and so did my wife, because we decided to move back to Australia. And this is the key moment. So we had saved a bit of money to plan ahead for when we go to Australia, because we both kind of quit our jobs. And my wife was going to teach. She was already a teacher in Australia, so she had all the degrees. For me, I had to do what's called a DipEd, Diploma of Education. It's like a 6-month uni course, because my 7 years master's degree in Switzerland is not good enough, is not recognized. I can't do anything with it. So I had to do 6 months course. And I said to my wife, look, I have no idea because my Swiss clients might dump me when I go at the end of the world. But how long do I have? My wife is like the chief financial officer in the house. She's very good with numbers and taxes and stuff. And she was like, that was July 2017. And she said, we can afford you trying your best until Christmas. You still should make a little bit of money, but if you can see if by Christmas you can replace your income by doing web dev, and then that would work. And if not, just do your deep ed stuff. And so I thought, what the heck? I'm going to try, give it a real go and spend all the time I can learn and try to get clients in Australia and get the ball rolling. So we moved back to Australia. That's I can tell you the date. It's July 2013. So it's almost 10 years ago. That's when we moved permanently to Australia. And I did a email to all my clients and say, I understand if you don't want to continue, I'm going to move to this completely different time zone. And a couple of them said, if we love you, like it's fine, who cares? Like we give you what we need. If you do it 2 days later, there's no problem. And I thought, I'm going to land there and I'm going to do the whole, like, what should I learn next, and take it very seriously and maybe just even look for a boot camp or whatever. And the first 4 months, so July till almost October, were excruciating. Like I was spending so much time emailing and pitching and trying to convince people. And they were like, oh, you need to come to the office and meet the CFO and CEO and stuff. And I realized like the network I got from my personality and friends and contacts that kind of asked for me, they were kind of already sold. Like people said, just talk to Simon. He's awesome. He's really good. He's a nice person. When I got there, I had to prove myself from scratch. And I discovered all the parts of freelancing, which is like pitching and updating clients and trying to find leads and figure out what the hourly rate should be when it's your real job, because of all the times where you're not billing because you're like warming the client. And I was like, oh, I don't know if I like this and if I can do this. And it was October, so I had 2 more months. And just then is one of the tipping point of my life. I was on the side trying to... So something I haven't mentioned, when I did all this website for clients, I was using a platform called Theme Forest, which is like a marketplace where you can buy WordPress theme, Drupal themes, HTML templates, anything. And I would tell my clients, go there. Like I wouldn't hide that I use that as a crutch. I was like, just go browse the WordPress, check the category for like dental website if you're a dentist. Or I was pointing them towards a few good ones. And I was like, choose a theme and then buy it and then send me access. And then I will just customize it and stuff. And that's how I could price my projects pretty cheap, because my customers were pretty like small budget. And what I decided to do is like, I've seen how much money the theme authors make on Theme Forest. Because a theme is like $29 or $39. But then if you click on it, you can see it's sold 70,000 times. And you're like, hey, that's a bunch of money. And I thought, what does it take to jump on the other side of this marketplace and become an author instead of just a buyer? And I discovered the very, very strict and ruthless acceptance criteria of Theme Forest. Anyone who's listening to this and tried to upload something to Theme Forest would know. I actually, funnily enough, I've heard Wes Boss in one of the podcasts mention that he tried to do this. And what happens is when you upload something, people get traumatized because you almost always get rejected. And it's not like, oh, nice try, it's close, just clean up the padding here. Literally, the answer is always, this is nowhere near close to the level of design quality that we're expecting here. Go and learn the craft and come back if you're serious about it. Like, literally, you get absolutely slammed from, the third rope elbow drop. And a lot of people see this and like, I'm not cut for, like, it just broke me. And it did. Like the first time I was like, all right, well, I guess this is not an option. And then there was, back then in 2013, this really strong community, because Theme Forest was quite small. Now it's huge. And there was this strong community on the forum of people getting rejected and say, hey, show me what you've got and I'll try give feedback. And then I've learned to develop a thick skin, because people will really call you out like, you need to literally learn like the the principle of hierarchy of typography and spacing and all that, because it's all completely over the shops. And slowly but surely, I tried to clean it up and re-upload. And ThemeForest would only, most of the time, no feedback, just like it's nowhere near, go back, go to school. And sometimes they would, when you know you're getting closer, just like when you debug code and the error message changes, you're like, oh, I'm getting closer. They would give you one hint. The type scale is completely off. And you're like, okay, I'm going to clean this. And then you re-upload and they're like, the contrast on this button is off. And they only always give you one nugget of improvement. So you go through this process. And by the way, every upload takes 3 to 5 business days for the response to come.
Yeah, so this sounds like they were the market leader of this thing or whatever. Like everyone goes to ThemeForest to get their themes. So like the bar would have been very, very high. But I guess if you get over that bar, like that would be a very profitable place to be, because not only are you selling your themes, but then if you continued being a contractor, like you could essentially like steer your clients towards using those particular themes that you have built yourself, and then they're paying customers of your theme as well. So lots of opportunity there. Yeah,
that's right. And they were the leader, and they still are absolutely the leader of the company is called Envato, and is based in Melbourne, by the way. It's an Australian company, and ThemeForest is just one of the umbrellas they do. They do anything digital. So they do Audio Jungle for music, and then they do Graphic River for like graphics, like SVG illustration and stuff, and Video Hive, and they have all these marketplaces for anything digital. They basically covered the entire. You don't need a stock with a warehouse, like it's digital stuff, and they've absolutely nailed it. And I kept uploading, and I thought I'm getting closer because I get actual feedback, which means I'm worth of a bit of feedback time instead of like just go back, like you're not even close, forget it. And I will never forget this. So we said till Christmas, Simon tries to make web development. And then over the Christmas break, if it didn't work out, I enroll for the teaching stuff. And I kept doing this ThemeForest stuff. And one day, it's almost like the classic, like Hail Mary last second. That was maybe end of November or start of December. So I was already like, I'm not going to, like it's at this point, I'm not going to be able to make a full income. And I think end of November. And one day I wake up and I see the email from ThemeForest. And I was like, okay, what's the next feedback stuff? And I click and it said, your template, congratulations, your template has been approved for sale. And there's a view it in your portfolio. And I click and there was like 12 sales already. Like I woke up in the morning and the template was like $12, but like 12 times 12, like that was like a bit more than $100. And I was like, holy shit. Sorry, I whispered, it doesn't count. I was like so blown away. I did not think I would ever get approved. And there was a few comments of people who bought it and say, oh my God, this is so good. I've already put it on my site. Here's the link. And I could see someone using that template. And I was like, oh my God, what is happening?
I've made it.
You're
it's
not
my
going
time.
Yeah.
I am a ThemeForest author. That's awesome.
So you're not going to make a full income by selling one template of $12, but it kind of told me you can do this. And what happened the very same day? So it's exactly the first day that it got out. I had one email from someone I did not know from Canada who was doing a really cool pizza oven on wheels. Like he was converting trailers into these pizza ovens. And he was like, I just need a website to sell them, or people can book it and stuff. And he said, I bought your template. It's awesome. Here's the site. It already looks pretty cool. But are you available for like customizations and like freelance work? And I was like, dude, yeah, I'm literally looking like, yes. I tried to play it cool. Yeah, I might have some time. Let's catch up. And that's when I realized the hardest part for me was to convince clients, they were like, oh, how good are you? Do you have any portfolio? I was like, not really. I built this website for a school in Switzerland. And the whole finding clients and then proving to them that you should be the person they choose over other competitors, this completely got flipped. And people were reaching out to me saying, I've seen your thing on ThemeForest. You obviously know what you're doing. We'd love to hire you. And that's when I realized ThemeForest was not going to be my money-making machine, but it became my like business card. Like that was my instant credibility channel. And so like in everything I did, instead of saying I've built this site, I was like, here's my portfolio on Theme Forest, and mic drop, like, hey, I'm one of them. And yeah, essentially within the last month of my attempt, it went from I got a cold contact people trying to make a lead to, whoa, I've got 4 or 5 people asking for my hourly rate, and they want some customizations. And I was like, maybe it's actually going to work. And basically that was the tipping point where I decided to continue doing this, and it went really, really well from then. I don't want to ramble for 6 episodes straight, but something that happened next is my good friend, if you're listening, he's probably not listening, but my friend Matt Barron, he's a really, really talented designer, and he was the head of design at a corporate company in Sydney with like an office in a tower in the city. And he said, I was looking for a front-end dev which has obvious design tastes and stuff, and I've seen your thing on Theme Forest. So just the fact that he works for a company that kind of puts ads on LinkedIn and stuff. And he was like, no. If you want a really good dev that knows design, you go on like Dribble or like these design places. And just the fact that he looked there was a good sign for me. And he said, I see that you live in Freshwater and I live just up the road. Do you want to catch up for scrambled eggs? Like, let's have breakfast and I can just show you what I'm interested. And I was like, sure. And we met and we instantly hit it. We became really good friends. And he said, I've got this, we're looking for a freelancer. Like, you might have to come in the city every now and then, but it's a really cool job. You're going to get paid really well. And I was still kind of looking for a sustainable way to make money. And this idea of having 3 days a week with a contracting client in a real company in Sydney, not just like someone who sells pizza ovens or someone who does need, like, they're like a smallpreneurs market. Suddenly that was like a legit job. And I went there and I took this job, and after a year, they offered me like to join full time with a massive pay rise from starting as a freelancer to like suddenly you're like this senior level dev in the city of Sydney with the job safety. And I was like, even if it was a dream, I almost wanted to stay freelancer because I could see how much potential I was about to unlock. But I took the job just because we had our second child, and I was like, yep, this is good. So that kind of led me to my first full-time job as a front-end developer, which kind of sealed you might go back to teaching out of passion, but you're going to make it. It looks like you've got your foot in the door of just being a full-time dev. And this again happened because of Theme Forest, or thanks to Theme Forest. So the whole persisting by trying to, I had this vision that if I could make it to Theme Forest, good things would happen, and it really happened. I talk so much.
Yeah, I think that's really familiar. It's really similar to if you listen to the previous episode about my origin story. I think there's a lot of similar points, and one of those being like feeling like you're changing your entire career over to something else, and kind of allocating a particular amount of time to let it happen, or to see whether you can do it, and then kind of the focus of that time being like validity. Like, you need to get some kind of stamp of approval from some kind of company or some kind of system that says that like you can do this thing. And then all of a sudden, all of the work comes flooding in. Like, once you have that kind of like you had Theme Forest, once you had that link to send to people, or people were finding you through Theme Forest, that kind of added a lot of validity to your claim of being able to do this thing. But before that, you were really struggling to find the clients. So I think that's a really important point if you are looking to move into an area that you don't feel like you have enough of a portfolio to demonstrate. Looking for those ways that you can add validity to what you're claiming you can do is going to make a huge difference. Yeah,
totally. And I remember vividly telling to my wife, like, I'm trying to get this. She kept asking, like, what's your strategy to get more clients? And I was like, I'm actually trying to do something that doesn't bring me clients, but it has the potential to expose me to, like, and I was explaining this Theme Forest, and then she was like, but it's only $12. Like, you can't really make real money. Well, you can, but I had this hypothesis that it would create this credibility, and it really, really done. And ever since, like my wife trusted me already, but the whole business sense of like how to grow in my career, almost every time I said, trust me, this is not making money now, but this is going to bring to good things. And in a way, this is what I'm doing right now with the Pro Tailwind stuff. Like it's taking a little step back for a moment, thinking that it's going to lead to good things. I just want to add, from where we are to the story to where I am now, the couple of things that kind of illustrate my conclusion that I think is an important point to know. But that job at Society One is the corporate company we were working at with Matt, is where I ended up rebuilding the entire website with a utility-first framework called Tachyons. That's before Tailwind didn't exist. It's in 2016, end of 2016. And we had this scope creep, like lots of people saying, we need to change this page and make the button bigger, but smaller font, and like patchwork where you start using inline styles and like hacks and stuff. And I was like, I'm either going to quit this job or I'm going to refactor it without asking permission during the holiday while I'm on holiday. I was paid by the hour, so I could even actually like bill it, but I was like, I'm going to try. The holiday was actually a window of people not telling me what to do, so I could focus and 2 weeks over the Christmas break, try to just rebuild the site using Tachyons because I had played enough with it to know there's something really big about this. And I went camping with my family. My wife was totally cool with me working because that was like the way to make an income as a freelancer is if you take 2 weeks at Christmas, you don't get money. So I was like, I'm going to work and I'm going to just focus on building this. And in January, coming back to work, I did a pitch of the new site. Most people said, what's new about the site? I was like, that's the point. Nothing is new because it looks the same, but the whole CSS architecture is like so much more robust. And I kind of try to explain it to non-technical people. I just saw the size of the CSS and the maintainability and all the good things that lead to it. And they're like, it looks the same. If you wanna use that, we're fine with that. And then I wrote this article that kind of explained the whole. It's kind of clickbaity because it's called refactoring an entire website in 10 days while camping, which is entirely true. I was camping and I had 2 weeks and I finished in 10 days. And so I wrote a like 4-part series blog post about this. And it's still now people keep sharing it and looking at it. And it's like 4, 5, 6 years later. And to the point where I was like, I should talk about this more. And I presented it at a meetup. And then I presented it at an international conference in Berlin, which is, I think, the moment this put me on the utility first ambassador thing on the map. Like a lot of people got convinced to use Tachyons and then Tailwind because of that talk. And I presented that talk one more time in Sydney at LaraCon AU. And in the audience, Adam Wathan and Steve Shoger, the founders of Tailwind, was sitting at the front row. And I had already become friends, like Twitter friends with them because of the whole work that I did. But just presenting that talk in front of them is kind of what eventually led into me working for the Tailwind Labs core team. If that makes sense.
And there's another really good example of a way to move into that kind of role is like building in public. Like you're already doing the work, building, like moving everything across to the utility first CSS. And so you had done that work and been paid for it as your job. But then if you don't do anything more with that, then that time is only worth the amount of time that you did there and then the amount of money that you got paid for it. But if you can reuse that and create content that other people can find valuable, like you reused it in multiple ways. You wrote a blog post about it that was really, really successful. But then you continued doing conference talks. And then from that came this whole new career. And so, yeah, you never know what you're missing out on by just kind of doing the work and then not telling anyone about it, by kind of putting together what you're already doing and giving it out to other people so that they can maybe learn from it as well, can lead to some much bigger opportunities.
Yep. Yeah, I look at my career, like my career transition, and I see 3 definite milestones. And the 3 milestones are matching with 3 times where I put myself out there, something in public. The first one was doing the theme forest. Like it's not really putting yourself out there, but it's finding a way to put yourself in a place that people will find. And then the third one was actually doing this conference talk, which led to really good things. But in between, I did another thing that kind of also acted as a milestone where you kind of go up another level in terms of who you can reach. And like this was making public videos. So I started making a YouTube channel and I did little simple videos. I tried to keep them short. They were called CSS or tips in 90 seconds. And in a way, it almost feels like I stole it from Fireship that has this like blah, blah, blah in 1 minute or blah, blah, blah in 100 seconds. Mine were literally called blah, blah, blah in 90 seconds. I think that precedes what Fireship did. Why I didn't know about Fireship anyway. But I had, I was using this templating language called Jade, or it's called Pug now. It's like a Node.js templating language. It's basically kind of like Ruby in a way where instead of having instead of having opening and closing brackets, you only open them and you let the indentation tell you when you've closed them because you come back to the... So, and it's kind of like stylus as well in CSS, if you know about it. Instead of having the closing, opening and curlies and closing, you skip that and you let the indentation of your code dictate that. So it was a great way to drill in my head the importance of good indentation before prettier was a thing. But I did these tips, Jade in 90 seconds, and I did a whole series. And it just, again, maybe I had like 800 subscribers and maybe a couple of thousand people saw the videos, nothing groundbreaking. But one day at my door knocked someone called Taylor Bell, and Taylor Bell works at Egghead. And he was like, dude, your videos are exactly what we're trying to get our instructors to do. No intros, no fluffy stuff, within 1 minute, one topic, and then the next video. Are you interested in teaching these sort of styles with Egghead? And back then I was like, Egghead was like Dan Abramov and all the legends of JavaScript. And I was like, me? You talking to me? Did you get the wrong email or something? And he was like, no, we love what you do. And you've got charisma and natural skill for teaching. And that's exactly what we're looking for. You don't need to be an expert in your craft. You need to just like be expert at teaching. And you already are that. And so I got invited from making videos. I got invited to be an Egghead instructor. Then from talking at a conference, I got to present in front of Adam Wathan and friends. And then because I was making videos as an instructor, there was this whole, Simon is actually a really good candidate to be someone who creates content for our company. So this whole DevRel thing came because I put myself out there multiple times. And just like you said, I could have done the work and then just not shared with anyone. And I would probably still be doing a WordPress site, or maybe I would have moved to Laravel and got a bit better with application development. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's a great career, but I think I opened so many doors for myself by just putting myself out there repeatedly and just try to continue doing that now.
Yeah. It's amazing seeing just how many parallels there are between our careers. We were meant to do this podcast together. We were meant to be together, Simon.
That was actually the last thing I was going to say in my whole journey is like the last putting myself out there thing that I'm doing is doing this podcast with you. And I have no doubt that at some point, looking back at it, that something will be, remember we did this. And then that happened, like either a specific company or sponsor or person reaches out or some opportunity that is directly linked to doing this podcast. And I love doing it for fun and like hanging out with you and just putting myself out there. But it's also, I'm very confident that some good things will happen because every time you step out of your comfort zone and do something like this, it tends to, the next chapter kind of unveils in front of you. I think right at the start, we were saying like I ended up in Australia on an accident instead of going to Vancouver and all these things. And life is kind of made of these little tipping points. And some people call it luck and some people call it preparation. And there's a quote. I went on the podcast a year ago and a friend of mine said me that quote from Seneca. And he said, luck is when opportunity meets preparation. So you prepared all your life for this opportunity and then it happens and it's luck. But luck is kind of also, you put yourself in the best position to make the most out of this opportunity rather than just it falls on your lap, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, it's so interesting seeing that, like, yeah, we both started off in completely different careers, and kind of like we kept making excuses to do the web development thing without that being like our main role. And then eventually, like, kind of both kind of going between like teaching and software engineering, and both of those parts playing a really important piece of our overall careers. And then eventually, like both of us having kids and maybe having some financial pressure that we need to, if we're going to switch careers, that it's a little bit like they're a little bit higher stakes and that we can only allocate a particular amount of time. And then going through like being very intentional about what we were trying to achieve and how we could get there, and looking for something to kind of to give that stamp of approval, or to kind of back us up that we can do that particular thing. And then all the way through to, like, you know, becoming egghead instructors. Both of us kind of come from that world. And so it's interesting that, that we both ended up as egghead instructors, and then also moving into developer advocacy, thinking that this is not, like, I don't have the skill set for this. This isn't where I belong, but realizing that that's just a summary of all of the career up until that point. Like, there are so many pieces that you pull from all of those different opportunities that you took, and all of those different unexpected turns in your career that kind of gave you all of the skills that you needed to get to this point.
Yep. That's one thing I didn't realize until later, is when I career changed, the start of the journey was when I was 25, I guess. 25 being when I went to Australia and then started trying to learn HTML, CSS to do this website. That was like the really start. I wasn't thinking of transitioning, but when I started making client work, and I realized, God damn, if I started going to uni studying computer science and stuff, I would be so ahead of time already, because now I'm 27, 28, and I'm literally trying to figure out how floats and clearfix and all these things work in CSS, and what semantic tags should I use for what element in my HTML. And full circle, I went back to being a developer advocate, and then I'm like, God damn, I have actually a uni degree and 5-6 years head start of teaching and understanding the learning concepts and pedagogy and all that stuff that people who went to computer science and now want to teach web development have to figure out. So they doing the same journey, like in the reverse approach. So I'm actually not that far behind, because I've prepared for this moment. And I think that's what I said. That's why I said that to you at the end of your story. When you hear that podcast, you felt like you were just learning stuff on the fly and you were not prepared for that. And I said, everything that you went through, like teaching some courses, and then doing the syllabus for the university, and all these things actually prepared you to be a good teacher. So you also have that head start that you don't realize until you think about it.
Yeah, and it's much easier to learn technical skills later on than it is to learn how to, like, communicate effectively and how to teach people. That's a much harder and sometimes impossible skill for someone to learn, whereas the technical side of stuff, like, you know, learning how to solve problems in a particular language, or write functions and loops and all of those things are much easier to learn later on. And so you're quite fortunate that you went through all of the, like, learning how to teach concepts and communicate effectively, and how to transfer that knowledge. And on the side, you were still learning probably more than you would have learned at university anyway. Like, when you don't go to university, you think that it's this, like, magical, like, castle that teaches you everything you need to know about like how to be a software engineer. But really, like, you know, so much of it is theoretical, and so much of it is not related to the kinds of jobs that you'll get once you're finished university. Like, it is still a fantastic way to go, and it's like, it can be really enjoyable learning that stuff. But I think it's not correct to think that you don't belong in the industry if you haven't gone that particular pathway. Like, there are millions of different pathways that you can go to get into web development, and a very fulfilling career as a software engineer.
Yep. Very nicely said. I actually don't think there's many things that I've learned at uni that I'm using today. One thing was the curiosity of learning tourism and stuff during my exchange. But I think, again, that's a life. What got me curious was not necessarily the uni materials, was like going to Australia and experiencing all this and say, hey, We don't have that here. The sort of stuff I learned at uni, when you want to teach sports, you need to learn a lot of medical classes like anatomy and psychophysiology. And like in the hand, there's so many little bones. And honestly, I have zero idea of what they are anymore. But I remembering just the thumb has like so many little like ligaments and stuff. And you have to learn all like a literally dictionary of anatomy terms and then learn that just for an exam. And yeah, that's the experience of going to uni still brought me, like it teaches you how to organize your learning and stuff. But I don't think I'm using many of the skills I learned at uni, and I'm not dissing uni at all. It's probably the funnest years of my life. If anything, going to uni is great, like in terms of life experience, and especially doing the exchange program I did was pretty cool. But just
for sure.
take life and go through experiences and think nothing of it until you realize, oh, this was actually a milestone and it helped with the next move.
Yeah, take the scary opportunities. You never know where they're going to lead. And I think that is it for us for the main topic of our conversation today. We've learned so much about Simon. It has been, amazing hearing about your whole very interesting background. I'm still not fully convinced as to why you're still here in Australia and why you're not living in the beautiful snowy mountains of Switzerland. But I think that's more reflective of my situation than yours. I just wish I could go and live in beautiful snowy mountains and just snowboard out my door into one of the trails.
Now that you say that. Yeah, the funny thing is the grass is greener concept. My wife every 6 months is like, should we go back? When should we go back? Like permanently, like let's go live there. It was so nice. And then on my end, I'm like, it was really nice, but also our whole memory of Switzerland is without kids. So we were just going skiing and adventures and all that stuff. And right now we would be like working and busy and tired and stuff. And it's like, and I've got this surfing thing. So I love it here. She loves it there. And we might eventually go back. Who knows? But yeah, it's funny. But there's definitely, it's two places that are really nice to live and cannot complain about that.
For sure. It's very hard to catch waves on your surfboard in the middle of a completely flat lake at the bottom of snow-covered mountains.
I tried.
You might need a very, very thick wetsuit for that.
Now, the lake is actually super warm for the whole... Summer is only 3-4 months, but it gets significantly warmer than the ocean in Sydney in summer. People don't get the whole 4 seasons is a real, like it's cold and snowy in winter, but summers in Switzerland are like really nice. Because you're a bit further away from the equator, like the nights get really long. Like I work at ThinkMill, and one of our friends' colleagues has moved to Germany for like a few years. And he's saying like the sun goes down at 10 p.m. It's still daylight. Where I don't know about Melbourne, but Sydney at the peak of summer, 8 o'clock is probably the latest where the sun goes down. But that means the counterpart means like in winter at 4 o'clock it's pitch black. But yeah, there's what I miss a little bit, these 4 seasons, and I think we can transition to this open bar because we're talking about seasons now. Something I love and I miss about Switzerland is real definite seasons. Every 3 months, it's like you travel to another place because, I mean, you're in the same physical place, but the lifestyle goes from putting ski jackets and beanies when you go outside and going skiing and stuff to just thongs, boardies, jump in the lake, go have some beers, barbecue with friends, music festivals. And it's like, it is all in the exact same location and it's like completely different lives where in Sydney, I found the difference is, do I have a hoodie or just a T-shirt? And like everything is kind of the same. There's not much difference between seasons. It's a bit too hot or a bit too cold and then nice in between, I guess. So I miss that.
Well, I'm just missing summer right now, or missing spring. Once it gets to summer, it's, maybe a bit too hot and uncomfortable. But when you first get those couple of sunny days in spring, it is just so pleasant. Simon, what did you do this week on Friday? What have you just been working on? What was your... I'm gonna force you to... I'm gonna pull you back into plugging your Pro Tailwind course.
I forgot about that. I went straight to the open bar and seasons and stuff. We have that part where we plug ourselves a little bit. So last Friday, And you can see me, I'm still alive, so it worked out. I did not die. Last Friday, I taught my very first Pro Tailwind workshop, live workshop on Zoom to 18 students. And this was my very first, well, that was my first Zoom live workshop where people pay to get a ticket, and then I have to satisfy the amount that I have paid. And I was using technology I knew about but never really used, like breakout rooms. So we had a series of CSS challenges, and I would talk about the challenges with everyone. So like 18 people in the room. And we did a wheel of names. It's a website where you can put names and spin the wheel and it makes groups for you. So we made groups like this, and then these groups would stay together the whole workshop. And I would present the workshop and then dispatch people to the 4 different breakout rooms and give them 10 minutes to kind of, with instructions, one person has to share the screen, just try to collaborate on this, keep your camera on, and make it interactive. And I had no idea if people were like going to be like, oh, I don't want to do this, camera off, I'm not talking to anyone. And we did these little challenges. Then I brought everyone back and we kind of discussed the pros and cons. And I walked them through my suggested solution, it being just one solution out of many. And we did 3 challenges like this with a break in between. And at the end, everyone was like, wasn't sure about the breakout rooms, but that was so cool. Like we had this little group that we get to know, and there was lots of collaboration, and it felt like it's a workshop where everyone's actively participating in, instead of just watching a webinar of 4 hours of Simon teaching Tailwind. And yeah, so I'm definitely going to stick to this format of having little groups, focus groups, and send people and then bring them back. And it's brought a really good energy. And yeah, people were smiling at the end. They had really good feedback, and I'm super happy. That was the first one of many to come. And yeah, getting the first one behind you and seeing that it went well and actually really well gives you confidence. So now I'm actually excited for the next workshops instead of like freaking out like I was.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm so glad that went well. I, like everyone else, was sure beforehand that you were going to absolutely nail it. So yeah, awesome work. This week I have been, this week has just been crazy at Supabase because it's launch week. Yeah, we had launch week number 5 where if you're not familiar, we basically launch a new feature each day. And so yeah, it just ends up being crazy and everyone, like, lots of excitement. It's very fun. And then on top of that, I launched my my new Egghead course. And so this one is all about caching Supabase data at the edge using Cloudflare workers and KV storage. So if you haven't had a chance to check out our episode, I think it was episode 5, which is everything you need to know about the edge. Very clickbaity title, but that will give you some context as to the problem that I'm trying to solve in that course. But yes, it's finally launched, and it's a very exciting process launching a new course, especially on Egghead. They're just so good at what they do with the marketing and just everything. Egghead team is amazing. But yeah, so I've just been very busy launching new features and shouting about them at Supabase, and then launching my new Egghead course.
Sounds like a busy week. And I've seen you tweeted that you already have people who completed the course and gave a 5-star. So it seems to be like people are happy with it.
That's right. Yeah, it seems to be doing very well. People seem to really like it. Yeah, it's exciting.
Sweet.
Yeah. So now we can move into open bar. Do you want to play the sound again?
Now that it's officially open bar, I'm going to play a double one because I spoke so much. I need 2 drinks. Oh, let's make it 3.
Oh, wow. Wow, that's a lot of drinks. A lot of spicy water for Simon. Do you have any sick picks or shout outs or things for our open bar other than the 4 seasons?
Shout out goes to the whole badass dev team, which is the folks behind Egghead who created this badass courses, which is taking the Egghead knowledge into more what they call West Bus as a service. They create this like big scale platform for doing a course, and they do from marketing. You might have seen email courses and stuff coming from my end. So I produce all of that, but they're the one saying, hey, we should do this, and you should write this week. You should write, imagine a 4-part email, and you should do the copy. So I still do the work, but they do the whole strategy to create some momentum for when you launch the actual course. It launches pretty solid. And yeah, it's been amazing. And the whole breakout rooms challenges, completely credit to them. They were like, that's why you should try. It works really well. Kenzie Dots did it and successfully. And just they give you all these tips. If I didn't know and I had to do my own workshop, I would have probably just done me like almost like I do a YouTube video where I type and code and present it, and it would still be good, but they take everything to the next level, and they know what they're doing after years and years of partnering with people, and also the whole Egghead experience. So big shout outs to them. And also like they're clearly passionate about what they do. It's fun working with them. It's all remote, all async. There's never any pressure or feel like you're part of a restricting contract or something, or like can I tweet about it? It's just like they augment you and they got you back, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, they have a lot of experience. It's very nice having someone like that in your corner, giving you little hints as to, like, even just, like you might think of multiple ways that you could do something. Having someone else to bounce ideas off and kind of come up with the best way to approach it is very handy. I am going to shout out a barbecue that I bought. Very Australian thing. I'm trying to get into
Summer's coming.
into the vibe of summer and having nice outdoor barbecues again. But I bought a charcoal like barbecue smoker thing. Which is just everything tastes delicious on it. I don't even remember what the exact brand was. But I'm gonna say that you don't need to. I'm sure there's a reason, but you don't need to go and like spend thousands of dollars on like a green egg smoker to get delicious smoky charcoal cooked meat. If you just go to your local barbecue store and buy we just bought the fairly low end charcoal burner, and it's amazing, like worlds different from cooking meat on a gas powered barbecue. I don't know what it is. Maybe cooking it over smoky charcoals just brings out an incredible flavor.
I 100% agree. For one reason is I discovered gas barbecues in Australia. In Switzerland, in every park, there's barbecue facilities, but all it is a pit, and you bring your own charcoal, and there's a grid, and you put stuff. So that the whole concept of doing a barbecue has always been, all right, we need charcoal and maybe like fire starters if we're really crappy with making fires, and beers, and like that's the trifecta. Like you need this. And when I came to Australia, I discovered this, so for those who don't know, there's this little barbecue thing, and there's a green button, and you press, and it's going to start cooking for like 15 minutes or something in a public park. And you don't need to bring any gas or anything. It's like, it's there. And depending where you are, there's also a little brush and scraper to clean after yourself. And I was like, this is amazing. But I agree, like the taste of cooking something on the flat plate that's gas heated versus the smoky charcoal on the grid is quite different. And I miss like these Swiss summer barbecues where you see, now I'm convincing myself to want to go back.
Yeah, you don't want those gas barbecues of Australia. You want those beautiful charcoal pits of Switzerland. All right, that's it from us. Thank you so much for tuning in. Once again, my name is John Myers. You can find me at johnmyers_IO on Twitter.
And I'm Simon Swiss, Simon Vrashli Otis. You know everything about me and my last name now, and you can find me Simon Swiss on Twitter and other things, but I'm more likely to respond to you on Twitter. Thank you for listening to this quadruple episode, or I don't know, it's likely might be split in more than one. I'm not sure. I am terrible at timing myself, especially if I talk about a whole life story with questions about Switzerland and why going back. But
it's
I
just
hope
such
you
an
enjoyed
interesting, vibrant history that there's just so much to talk about.
There is. I hope you enjoyed it, and you can listen it at 2 or 3x if that helps. And I'm glad I was able to share all of this and share it with you, John. And it's always a pleasure. And I'm looking forward to our next episode.
Yeah, it was very great getting to know you on a whole different level. Thank you, Simon. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you again next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Who's live?
We have one person live, I think. We had we had other people live throughout.
We get hearts. Thank
So
you
many
much.
hearts, green hearts.
Yeah.
I'm
So
just
for-
remembering to
Yeah.
stop my recording of the of my local version, so I don't just leave it running over lunch.
Yeah.
Um,
So
that was awesome.
Yeah, thank you. There was lots of rambling at some point, but it's I guess when you talk about yourself, that's what happens. It's all interesting, but it's like I could imagine being in a party and telling this whole story, and people say, "Oh my god!"
Someone just being like,
talking.
"I've been trying to get away for an hour and 20 minutes now."
Find a window to leave.
I just asked where you were from. That's all I asked. I didn't want this whole backstory.
Volunteering too much. For those live, like we sometimes try to batch recordings, and we haven't talked yet about doing another one today.
I don't think I'm going to be able to do a second one today.
Yeah, that was long. I mean, we're live 1 hour 50 minutes now, so it's kind of like doing 2 episodes. You just had the editor thinker like, oh no, I gotta chop out some stuff.
No, there's really not that like. Yeah, we didn't have any tech problems today. Usually we have cameras dying.
I had to restart the computer, so Ecamm...
But I mean, that's all before it. Like, that's all fine. In the actual recording, like the bit that I need to edit, that's,
Now, Ecamm Live is and we, just for context, we're running the beta version, which is living on the edge to have some new features. And I know countless people using the beta version for like big streams, like real live stream that are... Like we use this as a recording and we kind of say, hey, we're going live. But some people do like proper live stream broadcast and they use the beta version and it always works. It's like amazing.
Yeah.
Another shout out to Ecamm Live. There you go. But it's not going to be in the recording, but yeah, it's good. I like it. I'm trying to convince, I don't know if they do team licenses, but I'm trying to convert the whole ThinkMill company to it because they're like, oh, I had my little signature with the heart at the bottom on Zoom yesterday.
Yeah.
Like, how did you do that? And then I made it fly from the side, and then I show the slide where there's like the timetable of the workshop, and they're like, oh my god, I want to do this.
That's awesome. Yeah, the that little Opal C1 camera, the little 4K thing does. I don't think it does. Like you can draw. Like I think you can draw with your finger, like just like this in front of the lens, and it will like remember it and draw a little picture. You can do things like you can do like a peace sign, and it'll turn off the camera, and then you do a peace sign, and it turns on the camera, so you can like toggle it. Oh, it just did it. It's turned on.
you can accidentally leave the live interview when you go, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what? At the start, I fiddled to have the perfect matching heads cropping, and then I unchecked the box. I was supposed to be, I was like, I am going to go like this, then like this. And now you're moving, of course. And then about 5 minutes before the end, I realized the checkbox is unchecked. So it's,
That's fine.
Oh, well.
All right.
Yes.
I'm gonna go get some lunch, and I don't think I can record a second one today, but it's good that we have another one.
What
ready
do you mean?
to
You
go
didn't even talk
next week. I know. No, it's not my voice. That's
the lights.
That's a problem. Awesome, but this was fantastic. Thank you so much for teaching me more about you. I still don't believe you. Go back to Switzerland. I would go back to Switzerland.
So many facets of my life you don't know yet.
Yeah.
I have friends like this that every time you speak to them, even after 10 years of knowing them, like, oh yeah, like a good friend of mine, Dominic Wilkowski, we flew to San Francisco to do React training for Atlassian. And it was like, we were in the flight, like we kind of did a meeting because we were sitting in different places. So we met near the bathroom just to like chat because we would land and then teach the workshop straight away. And he was like, oh, do you know that you can open any airport bathroom from the outside by just spinning the little thing? And he said, you're going to hear a scream. And he just did it and it didn't open, but he showed me that it works. And he was like, oh yeah, I was like a flight attendant for a bit. And every single time I talk to him, he's got this past life.
Yeah, right.
He's got so many different experiences of life and I know him so well and I had no idea. So I feel like I'm a bit like this, like you. I'll
Yeah.
reveal little nugget drops every 6 months.
Yeah, you'll have to like keep a list of all the things that you'll slowly reveal over time, and then just like drop a little nugget every now and again in one of the episodes. Hey, did I go super pixelated? My preview window went pixelated. Like it looks like it's kind of low quality now. Did that happen while we were recording?
I saw for a little bit, and then it went back to good. But now you are a bit pixelated, I think.
Yeah, weird. Well, I actually did upgrade my internet. And right now I'm running on the old internet, but the new internet is ready to switch over to. So maybe next week it'll be never a problem again.
Never again. Yeah, I if I go guess, John, it says you're coming in at, I don't know how, 720. 720 is not too bad. It's not like 360.
But at one point it definitely went like proper, like 240 kind of level of
I should have put
quality.
Like this.
Yeah.
This is all you deserve with that quality.
Yeah. I was going to shout out Simon with the 6-pack and his shirt off, but then I decided not to objectify you on the live on the podcast. But now anyone who's watching on YouTube can. Oh, is that not you in the middle panel on the right?
No, that's not me.
Okay. All right.
I looked kind of like this though.
Yeah.
Remember, I was a sporty person.
Yeah,
person.
That's why I just assumed it was you. All right, you have a lovely day. Enjoy the rest of it, and I'll see you next week.
Yes, sir. All right, good to see you. Bye. Bye, people. If anyone watches live still, I would be very impressed. The answer is no, because there's a 0. But thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching that in the future, and see you.
Bye.